Well, our Friday press conferences have obviously usually been with the Chief Minister, but not for the last month and a bit more than that. You've been away, you've obviously had other commitments. Things to catch up on, first of all, and from you, the board system has come up recently from these big debates, hasn't it? Yes. And the idea that CoMin is too powerful, not responsible enough to the members of Tynwald, and let's go back to the old days.
Yeah. I'm very disappointed to hear this raised again, frankly, because anyone who actually lived through that period will know full well what a chaotic system the old board system was. We had 27 different committees running government. We had a executive council which had a chairman with no real executive power. No one took authority for anything. There was no accountability, very little transparency, and absolutely no coordination between boards or any attempt at long-term strategic planning for the government. And bearing in mind the time, in particular in the mid-80s when we brought about these changes, it was a desperate time economically for the island. If we hadn't made those changes at that point, I don't think the Allan would have survived, certainly not in the shape it is today.
Are you worried though that the perception is that there is too much going on in this particular room, that the decisions made and it's just asked to be rubber stamped by everybody else?
There's a lot of mystique built up around the Council of Ministers. This is just a cabinet which every other government in the world, or every other democratic government in the world has. It helps to coordinate broad policy. The vast majority of what goes on here ultimately finds its way to the floor of Tynwald, and Tynwald does get that chance to vote on it. And the Council of Ministers, in spite of this nonsense that keeps getting raised about the block vote, we don't have a majority in Tynwald, and we have been outvoted on a number of occasions, and can still be.
But people have said, well, you've gone out to the big debate to have this chat with the public. This is some of the feedback you're getting, so should you not be listening to what they're saying?
We listen, yes, but we still have to provide a government that works. And the greatest respect to some of the commentators, I don't think a lot of people who do make these comments fully understand how the governmental system in the Allan works at all. You know, I am accused on a regular basis of being a dictator. I have very limited powers as Chief Minister. I can only persuade my colleagues around the table here, for example, to take a certain course of action. I can't instruct them to do it. And if there's a rebellion around the table, then the Chief Minister loses. The Chief Minister has very limited powers in that respect. So it's not the dictatorship that some people like to think. But you have to have some central direction in government. Every cabinet in the elected cabinet in the world has this system. There is a position of central control where you have a Prime Minister, you have a cabinet with responsibilities. This happens everywhere. It's nothing unusual.
Okay, what about overstepping the mark? We've had a couple of examples now during the summer where you have decided that we're going to do A, and you found you actually can't do that because you haven't got the powers to do it.
Yeah.
Your response?
Yeah, that has been a big disappointment for me, I have to say, because certainly on a couple of the issues, I was given absolute assurances that the Barries and the legal responsibility was there for certain actions to be taken. It comes as a shock, but Council will respond and are responding to that at the moment. It will mean that we will have to scrutinise things ever closer in the future when new items come along to make sure that every item does have the Barries.
Who's letting you down? Is this civil servants who are telling you can do this, and then you have this embarrassment when you're going public to find that you actually should have done that in the first place?
I mean, I don't want to point things of blame. These things happen, and often certain activities take place because they always have done, and you know the root of many of these problems go back many years.
But you rely on advice, don't you? Surely?
We always rely on advice.
So you're being given bad advice?
The advice has not been as accurate as it might have been, and whether it's senior officers, sometimes it's perhaps a misinterpretation of advice given to us by the Attorney General's Department. There's a range of different advices that we get. It's very seldom that Council or any Minister and his department works in isolation from that advice.
Can you see how the public can see that maybe things are not working as well as they should be?
Absolutely, and I can only apologise that these things have happened. They're not done by choice. The decisions which have been making have all been made with the very best of intentions to help improve certain activities the government's involved in. We will be doing our best to learn from this and make sure that these things don't happen again. But government is a big business. Don't forget that. You know, we're £1 billion business, the Isle of Man government. And in any business of that size, mistakes do get made from time to time.
It's not been one, it's been two at least on
yes.
that, and other things that may have not be gone as well as you probably thought.
Yes, I have to say, I don't want to itemise them, but there have been areas of disappointment. There's some in particular which I hope we will learn from and make sure it doesn't happen again.